And then what we're gonna do is when we hit start, we'll give it till a few extra minutes just to see, make sure folks. Where did you go? There. Let me see here.
How long you been doing YouTube?
Man, uh, long time. Long time. I want to say, man, I didn't even realize somebody was like, man, you have over like 200 something videos on YouTube.
Um,
So lots of stuff there, man. Whether or not people watches them is another thing, but it definitely got a lot of content up there.
okay. No, I do I started getting into TED Talks.
Okay.
So, those are some of the things like I like. Well, I like people's personal stories.
Okay.
Which I was
How,
doing a presentation Tuesday.
mhm.
Came out good, and I didn't know that
What's it
my
about?
finance as well,
Okay.
because that's my project. But I found that people are interested more in personal obstacles or failures, or I don't want to say failures, but learning lessons as you go.
Yeah.
And those are some of the things that I like. I thought they were going to ask questions about other things, and they're like, "Nope, that was more interesting, right?" Um,
Well, that's the whole point of this, man. Is each one teach one. I think your story in and of itself is a story of overcoming. Your story
well,
is how you because you had the opportunity to go a lot of different directions, but now you trying to buy a fourth crib. That's not a normal outcome. That's an abnormal outcome. People want to know, like, okay, how did he make that decision to go that route and be so dedicated to that piece of economic empowerment? That's a powerful story, man. We'll bring it out of you today.
okay.
We're gonna bring it out of you today. Oh, Judy Mays jumping in. Judy Mays,
Hey Ryan, what's going on?
how you doing?
Good.
Lewis is
Hi,
getting ready.
Judy.
Hi, you guys. Hi, Louise.
Hey, hey, hey. Oh, that's Latasha's coming in here.
That's my supervisor.
Oh, okay.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Latasha.
How
Hey,
are you?
Tasha.
Hey,
Hi.
Luis.
Thanks for joining us.
I told you I was coming. I'm interested to hear and learn.
We'll give it about another minute. And Luis, what I'll do is Judy knows the drill. She did a fabulous job last month. Congrats on that, Sister Judy. Good stuff. We're gonna my parts really is just to I'm gonna introduce MPI and what MPI does. Uh, and then I'm going right into you. And what's your official title over there and the organization and the official title?
I'm a case manager.
Okay. And the organization's name is what?
The Institute for Nonviolence Chicago.
Okay. All right. You ready to get going?
Yes.
When I hit record, that's when we start. Welcome to Each One Teach One. This is Ryan Mack, and we are here with yet another exciting town hall meeting. Thank you all for joining out there in the whether you're talking on YouTube or on Facebook or even live here in the chat. We want to say we have a great event brought to you by Metropolitan Peace Initiative, MPI. They are stellar and going into the community, forming organizations or coalitions rather to create means of having a safer city of Chicago and beyond. And there's tons of different organizations that have come together to really have a strong overall reduction in violence. So as many organizations that are on the ground. As a matter of fact, the individual who's going to be speaking today is a case manager for one of those organizations. And not only that, Luis Salcedo has been a stellar participated in the program. Let me tell you about Luis, if I can just brag about him for a second. This brother has been doing some phenomenal things in terms of the field of not only just financial literacy and economic empowerment, but family as well as community empowerment. He takes it very seriously. Sat through the course, one of the easiest people I've ever taught. Not only did he learn these principles, but he kept coming back. He said, can I sit in for the next class? Can I sit in for the next class? So every once in a while, he was sitting for additional classes. He's always learning. He's always taking his information. And the way that he is so passionate about applying the principles for his family, applying the principles for his community. And I'm going to let him tell his story. But for me, the most exciting part about Luis was his practical application of the daily principles and what he's doing every single day. The questions that we asked, the weekly meetings, not only just the class, but the consistency to talk and ask questions, to learn, and the desire to learn and apply. I got to tell you, there's a verse in the Bible that talks about 1 John 3:18. Our love is not about words and fine talk. It's about action and sincerity. The sincerity in which he learns the principles and the application is second to none. But I'm going to step aside now. I'm going to let him tell his story. Then we'll come back on the other side to get a little bit deeper dive, because I'm telling you, you'll be extremely excited to hear his story. Luis Salcedo, brother, take it away. Let's hear your story.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. So a little bit about me, right? I got locked up at a young age, very young, and I did a long time in jail, in prison, and I took a few classes while I was in there, and it was finance. I didn't know that finance, like everybody talks about their hustle and what they did or whatever, and I found that business gravitated to me. I didn't gravitate to it, but it just found like easy ways to like, okay, nobody wants to be broke. Nobody wants to go hungry, right? And I think part of it was I don't want to be broke, right? And I think that was one of the ambitions that I said, okay, once I get home, I'm going to try these, right? I came home to nothing. I didn't have a license. I didn't know how to drive. I didn't know how to do nothing. So I came home, and the little bit of I had education while I was in there, and that education made me realize some things. And one of the things was that it gave me, when I was this program called Education EJP, was Education Project Justice. And believe it or not, they gave me a little bit of humanity back. I was numb. I didn't care about much. And education changed the way I thought, right? The way I saw things, how I view the world. So I came home and I got, okay, I got the job at the Institute for Nonviolence, and I was very grateful that they gave me a job. And the first thing they did, I didn't start off as a case manager. I started off as a nonviolence trainer, and I was talking about de-escalation situations. And the funny part was that I got to see how the city was before I left, and I was like, okay, I don't recognize my city. And Chicago is very segregated, so I was like, okay, I was shocked, but they gave me that chance, and they helped me achieve and advance. Like I came home, and right afterwards, COVID happened. I was like, okay, I can't get my project started, but I still made it happen somehow, right? Um, so to me, I was like, okay, Chicago needed, like I thought I knew the city. I thought I knew people. People changed on me. The city changed on me. I didn't recognize it, right? So I think for me, it was coming home was like, okay, um, I used to go around, right? And to schools or people, and they were like, okay, this is how the city is now. Young people tell me, right? And they have their own rules. It's not our rules no more, right? So I think it was like for me to find, I started learning, I started shadowing people, and I was like, okay, I need to have, I came home, I had 3 jobs, right? And I was like part time here, part time there, weekends, right? And I think it was more like, um, it's when I started learning, right? I picked up. I used to ask a lot of questions. I still ask a lot of questions. Sometimes my supervisor, like, Lewis, I already told you this. I'm like, well, I need to clarify things, right? And I think that's where I started getting the passion. I picked up, and I was like, okay, if I'm gonna put it, I started, and I was like, okay, I'm get the first. I had a first house, and I was like, okay, let me start working. Let me start doing. I went back to school. I was full-time student. I was a full-time worker, and I was doing like part-time at trying to do rehab, right? And I was like, that's too much, right? I dropped out of school. I said it was too much. I couldn't do it, right? And I tried again. I said, okay, 2 years later, circumstances changed. I became a case manager. I've been doing it for the last 3 years. I love helping people out. I love helping out communities. And some people I've seen them, right? Um, actually get their lives back in order. But to me, I was like, I'm helping other people. I need to help me out. Like, I've been away for so long that I never thought that I was going to become successful. I was playing catch up with other people, people that I grew up with. And I figured, okay, um, how do I go about doing that? Right. And I will learn by trial and error. I did a lot of mistakes, right? And I was like, okay, I went into the bank. I was like downtown, lost in the city. And I was like, I'm waiting for a friend. And I was like on a business and I was meeting. And I was like, well, let me go in there. I got an hour to kill. So I went in there and I just asked, like, okay, I want a line of credit. And they're like, it's COVID. We don't do that no more. And I was like, okay, let me try this. And I was like, nope, nope. I got a lot of no's, but between all the 50,000 no's, I was looking for that yes, right? And I kept asking, and I was like, okay. Um, and I would ask homeowners, how is it that you do it, right? I get random questions, and some people keep secrets. They didn't want to know. So I just went one time, and I was like, I got my income tax files together and I got everything. And I was like, I didn't ask nobody. I just went to the bank and said, man, look, boom, here, laid out the papers. What is it that I need? I got the first house and I was like, oh my, I did too much, right? I was back in school while I was in it. I dropped out again, right? And it was more like, oh man, I need, like, the money was running out, and I was like, my vision ain't coming. I could see the end in my head, but not in actual reality. Like, no. So it was getting close, and I was like, look, stop. I was trying to do a whole rehab on a whole house. I said, stop one. Let's just focus on one floor. I need income, right? And I started on the second. After that, I was like, okay, I need a LLC. And I was like, okay. And then this year, while I was taking the financial literacy class, I was like, I'm buying another house, right? And it just happened to happen. I was like, okay, I need it. I was in your class, I was doing school, I was still in class, and I was like trying to do this project. I should be done with the project next month. Hopefully, no setbacks. But that's where I learned how to like delegate. I said, I can't do all this. I gotta delegate. I gotta switch roles. If I want to be a leader and I want to be able to advance and know how to handle situations, I was like, okay. And so I was like, my big dream is like, okay, somehow, some way I was driving one day and I was like, let me pull over. So the real estate agent said, look, man, let's see if we could resell your house once you fix it. And I was like, I'm about keeping. I want to play Monopoly. I don't like in real life. So I pulled over, I talked to the guy, and he was like, look, he was like, we could finance you. And I was like, no, I want a line of credit. Like, I don't want to use all the money, right? He said, no, we'll give you $250,000. He gave me, print out the letter and say, here, it's good for 4 months. You want to change your mind? Come talk to me. And I was like, okay. So that's where I'm at, right? But some of the things that people don't talk about is failures. I wanted to do a nonprofit organization. I talked to the lawyers we had like ready, and she was like, oh, so great. And some of the things that I heard, I was like, I'm I'm going to step back and say I'm going to give it a pause. And one of the reasons for that was because they told me, okay, if you create a nonprofit and you have your board of directors and you do the bylaws, right? Um, that happens is I turn it over, right? If they get to decide later on that I'm not doing a good job, they could vote me out and keep my properties. And that's my properties. I work for that. And I said, no, like some things, okay, I feel like, okay, it's genuine. Like I'm trying to help people. And the people that I usually helped out. So out of the apartments that I had, I would do undocumented, documented, and returning citizens was my focus, right? And some of them, I learned some of the failures. Like some people will up and leave in the middle of the night and don't pay rent, right? Though it's not like they'll move to another part of the city. They move out of state on me. And so I was like, okay, some of these are losses, right? And in the business, there's always that gamble that you have to take. But I think one of the biggest things is, should I go? Should I try it? Should I like do the next step? And I think in this is there's no right time. You got to do it when the opportunity is there. And if you don't, I think for some people, fear is your setback. And I think it's like my fear is I don't want to be broke. I don't want to go back to being hungry and cold. Like those things are not in my future. I don't see them and I don't forecast them. And I'm trying to do everything to do it to prevent that. So that's why some of my drive is there. And it's like I can't be would I have a pension when I get old, when I'm 59 and a half? No, I doubt that, right? So my thing is this is my retirement. So the more money I could make while I'm still able to, that's gonna be my pension. And so I think those are what I learned with Ryan in his class was you have to think about that. You have to think about somebody, yourself at an older age. What about if an accident happens? Like there's the bunch of what ifs, right? People don't want to talk about it. And some of it is like, okay, my family, they think talking about death is morbid, right? There's like, no, you're gonna call it into existence, and it was like, no, but we have to be prepared. Like, we need to know what are the plans. And I think some of the people, some of those things happen, and it was like, okay, even dying costs, and it was like nobody's gonna pay it. Like, somebody has to, right? But nobody wants to. And some of the things is like, it's hard when you help people out all your life, and when you need that help, nobody's there for you, and nobody's willing to help. I think that hurts more, right? So to me, it's like, I don't want to have, I don't want to have to ask someone to help me. If I have it, then I could provide it for myself, and I think that's part of it. And I think we all learn how to do rejection. Not that we take it well, but I think part of those no's that I got in my face um, made me work harder, made me learn and say, okay, how do I turn that no into a yes? And I think that was one of the most challenging parts where it's like, okay, let me do a little bit more. Let me go get a little bit more facts, gather some more education, and see what options do I have and how can I come over those. Do I need something more? Do I need collateral? Like, these are some of the things that it's like, okay, I need a higher credit score. Okay, let me work on that. Right. And I think nowadays is, if you don't have a good credit score, we don't want to talk to you. Right. So how can we turn that around? And I think that's some of the things that I was like, some of the answers I can give people because I haven't experienced that, but I refer them, and I was like, hey, Ryan, can I send you somebody? And I was like, he was like, sure, send them. Right. Sometimes I drop in because I was like, I don't want to forget this. This is a good topic, and let me learn a little bit more. Right. So I think that's part of, like, also teaching others. I don't want to be a gatekeeper. I want people to be successful. So that's part of my story, but I'm still striving. I want to be Mr. Monopoly.
All right, man. Great story, brother Luis. Man, that's I really think you laid out so many points. Excellent job. You laid out so many points just to reflect on what it is. And I really like how you closed it. I don't want to be a gatekeeper because there are two types of people in this world. There's gatekeepers and bridge builders. And the bridge builder is what I see you as. You are the individual who takes this information and you gives it to your community and you pass it on. So a couple of points I wanted to ask you about because I think your story is phenomenal. Talk a little bit about the mindset when you first got home and you talked about you didn't recognize the city. You talked about how you weren't familiar. How did that make you feel, and what were some of the things that you used to cope coming home to be able to get through that feeling of unfamiliarity?
Well, part of it was I was familiar with people, but I didn't know them. Right? It was like I knew who they were, but I didn't actually know them. I didn't know what makes them tweak, what makes them angry, like what was their trigger points. And it's not like you have to know those, but it was like I I was walking on eggshells, even in my own house, right? And I thought that I had to catch up to, like, my peers, people I grew up with, people I went to school with, right? And it was like one time my brother said, why do you want to know that, bro? You're not missing nothing. Right. And I was like, I need to see it for myself. Right. And I think part of it, I want to say I was sheltered. It sounds messed up as it is. I was. And it sort of reminds me of the story of the Buddha. When Buddha was a young prince, he was hidden in the palace. He didn't know anything about starvation, hunger, like death, nothing, right? And when he first got to explore his actual city, it was like, what? This is going on? That's how I felt. I felt like I came home and I was like, okay, some people were still in the same spots that I had left them.
Mm.
And one of the craziest part was they asked me for money. And I was like, bro, I'm just getting out. I ain't got nothing to my name.
And
And you
so,
want to ask me.
so talk about that, because like you said you had 3 jobs when you came home. I'm just trying to figure out how we could package that drive, because as you may know, and you do know, many times individuals come home and it's sometimes they say they can't even find one job, let alone having 3 different jobs. What do you think and then you say you were sheltered. So despite the fact that you were sheltered, you still were able to come up with a lot of drive to be able to uh, empower yourself. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, one of the main reasons for that drive was I didn't sleep. Like I came home and like the first year, I would sleep 3, 4 hours and that was it. Like I was so anxious to like I couldn't be still. Like I had to go. I will be up at 5 o'clock, ready to go to work. I'll be at work at 6 o'clock. And then come 9 o'clock, I'm in my other job. Come out, go back. On the
Is
weekends,
it,
I had another job.
but is this be like, when did that, because when did you start like, was it just immediately when you came home, you had made it up in your mind? When did it click in your mind that to get that level of anxiousness to be successful? Because I think what you're talking about now, because I don't want to gloss over that, what you're literally describing is drive. It's a level of I want to be successful. When did that start to click? Was while you were inside prison, when you just got out? When was it close to your release date? Was there any event that happened that it just clicked and said, I'm going to make this change, I'm going to be successful? Because you came out with a level of hunger that is, I wish we could package it and sell it, because that's the level of hunger that, I mean, I would love to duplicate within other folks. Like, talk a little bit about where that came from.
Well, I think in prison you have these realizations, what I'm gonna do, what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go see these people, I want to do this, I want to do that, right? And you project these things in your mind, right? And whether they're fantasies or stories or whatever, and you think, okay, I'm gonna do this. When you come home, only about 20% of those things are gonna happen. The
Mm.
rest are pure disappointments. Well, they were for me. And I think part of it, can I say I had that drive in there? Yes. However, it doesn't come into fruition until like you're out here where your feet are on the ground. And I was like, okay. And I think for me, it was not like, oh, I need to be successful. I need to do this.
Mm.
My first goal was get a job, whichever job I could get. Second was I was like, I need a car. I don't care if it's a hoopty. I need
Mm.
something, right? And I think that where was my drive. Because I think if you don't have no other drive, the very beginning, that struggle where I was like, okay, I'm waiting for my paycheck. And they was like, nah, well, you don't get it the first time right away because they have to wait. So it's like, okay, you think you're gonna get paid that week? No, right? And I was like, okay, let me just borrow some money and I'm on it. I just need enough to get to work, come back, and like maintain. And I was like, okay, get it, get it. And then once I started like saving up, and I was like, okay, boom, I'm good, right?
Mm.
But it's like, okay, what else are you saving for? Well, I gotta save because I need to fix my car. I need to put insurance. I need to put gas. Like I need maintenance, right? And so it's like that's where I was like, okay. And it's like people only look out for you first 2, 3 months. Other than that, they're like, you're on your own. You're
Mm.
successful enough, right? And now you have to figure it out on your own. And you're thinking, okay, well, technology was my worst enemy. I didn't know how to work a phone. Like they gave me this thing, and I was like, "What is this?" Like I'm supposed to be Harry Potter and figure stuff out and create magic, and I was like, "No, right?" But it took me a long time, right? I was like, I didn't add no apps. I was like, I just needed a call, and it was like,
Mm.
and to me, that was the hardest part, right? It was one of the biggest obstacles, but like saving, when I came home, a candy bar before I left was 50 cents. Now it's $2. And I was like, what? Right? You're robbing me, right? But
I
I
want.
think that's part of like savings is the hardest thing to do.
I think what you described, is smart, because I think that's a financial lesson. I mean, you're literally giving an entire lesson. You created SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-based. You had a goal of getting a job. You had a goal of getting a car. You had a goal of making sure you had enough to do maintenance on the car. You had a goal of making sure that before until you got your car, you can borrow enough to get back and forth to work. You created a series of goals. That's an entire financial lesson. So I just want to make sure folks can just see that. I think it's brilliant. And I don't even know if you realize you were doing it, but that's like a whole lesson in and of itself to
Well,
be
at
able to
the time,
create
I
smart
didn't.
goals.
At the time, it was like, I need
Going,
to like one step at a time. I needed to do this. I needed, right? So it was like, I can't do it on just one income. Like whoever's out there and trying to struggle, and you're like, okay, you have that drive, you could always have a side job. You could always try to figure something else out, right? And that struggle is like, okay, clothes. To me, I had three uniforms. That's all I had. That's good enough. Like you come out here, you have the 50 million choices. I'm good. You give me three pairs the same way. I'm gonna make it happen. I needed that drive, right? And I think that was part of the focal point. Like now, yeah, I want to go buy what I want, but sometimes I was like, nah, I still have it. And before it was like, okay, the bank had told me, like, yeah, every 2 years you could come. And then I talked to somebody else and like, no, if you have your own money, you could buy it whenever you want. So I was like, okay. And my head was every 2 years I could buy a property, right? I'll buy one and refinance and then flip it and then like keep doing it. And then the opportunity came, and they're like, no, you come whenever you want. You have money in the bank, we'll help you,
So
right?
I just want to make sure that folks are really understanding the progression. You have somewhere you had something click inside, you got out, and you went from having a goal of getting a job and getting a car to getting 3 jobs to then being able to fix up your car. But then as your income was growing, you maintain the level of your material, of the lack of a desire to want more materialistic needs, because you realize you had bigger goals ahead. So you didn't buy a lot of clothes. You didn't get a lot of. What type of car did you have? Let's talk about that. What type of car did you get? What was the first car?
A Volkswagen, a
Okay.
CC Sport.
And
Too.
how was it? What year was it? And what year was it when you got out? And what year was the car?
I got out in 2019. The car was 2010.
Okay, so a 9-year-old Volkswagen just to get you back and forth from A to B.
Yes,
And
nothing fancy.
do you still have the Volkswagen today?
No, I upgraded and
You upgraded
but
now.
but the thing was, I I think everybody gets attached to their first car, right?
Mhm,
But I sold it to a friend that needed it, and I was
mhm,
like, I don't want to let it go, but you know what? I'd seen people that says, okay, here, right? And to me, upgrading is always good. Like you reward yourself, right, for
mhm,
certain things. But I also found that, like, if you stay complacent to what you like, you're like, I'm comfortable. You're never
mhm.
going to achieve much, right? You're
Right.
going to stay in the same mind frame, right? I'm comfortable, uncomfortable. So, and you don't have money for repairs, right? And I think those are the things where people get stuck. I'll fix it next year,
Mhm,
right? And that I eventually just went to 2 jobs, yes, right? because I was like, okay, my biggest thing was I needed a car, right?
Mhm.
And then like once I first got the first house, I said, okay, there's a lot of repairs I had to do to it. And I was like, well, I learned some of the things. So I was like, okay, some things I could do on my own and some
Mhm.
things I can't, right?
Mhm.
And can I stay here and fix the house and quit my job? Or no, I need like both,
Mhm.
right? And so that's what I try to learn on certain things, right? That sometimes you just gotta go and try it.
And so
Like,
how many homes do you have now? I know, but just to tell folks, how many homes do you have now?
well, I have 4 houses, but two of them are it's one pin but two houses on one lot. If
Okay.
that makes
Okay.
sense, right? So technically, it's 4 houses, and I'm working on the fifth one, right?
Mm.
So that's my plan now, and my plan was like do one a year, or it was
Mm.
two a year until they told me no, no. So now it's like okay, but this year since I'm like okay, if I could shoot for two, I'm going to shoot for two. So it's just like I'm just waiting for the opportunity to present itself. Because I'm also in school right now,
Mhm.
and I my intention is to graduate at the end of this semester. So that is my plan, and I'm more focused on my career than trying to get another project going.
Mhm.
And but I want to be able to do both, just
Okay.
so I could find it. And I think it's just some of the things that I'm trying to struggle because I'm still trying to do my job and not neglect it.
Mhm.
Because that is at the end of the day, that is my breadwinner, right? I have to, and I connect with my participants. I love helping them out, right? And I think that's what helps me stay grounded. Where there's things where it's like, yeah, can I act fancy? And I said, I don't do that. I don't do it. I could do both,
Mm.
right? It doesn't mean that I have to look down on people that because they're not as successful. I was there.
I think and what you're talking about is literally the perfect definition of of being well-rounded because you're owning properties, which in and of itself is a job. I'm sure you would agree. I would consider that to be a job in and of itself. It's an investment. It's also a job. And then working at the institute where you're at now, you're giving back to your community as well as sustaining your livelihood. You've kept a modest means, you're still growing, and then you're also focused on education. You're continuously going back and focus on education in order to build that foundation to again earn your earnings potential. So you're talking about one, two, three different revenue streams at this point, at least, and with more behind that. I think that's just phenomenal. So I guess if there was somebody out there who was at that point just getting home, I'm motivated by this story to say that you go from trying to get a job in a car to owning 4 homes and getting additional education and having a job that gives back to community. The progression is just phenomenal. What are you saying to what would you say to those individuals coming home? Because I know you have those conversations through your job. What are some of the words of encouragement that you give to those individuals who were where you were? Like, what are some of the things that you talk about when you say to get them inspired to walk the path you've walked?
But I think part of it is those stepping stones. Like do the first step, right?
Mhm.
If you want to talk about SMART goals, what is it that you need, right? Like we all need a job, regardless how it is, whether you're a CEO or you're down at very at the bottom, right? People say, oh, it's lonely on the top. It's lonely at the bottom too. Very lonely and poor, right? One of
Mhm.
my financial teachers said, you'd rather be crying on your bike or inside a BMW, right? Like,
Mhm.
if people could relate, we're all humans. We all suffer. We all have this pain. We all go through struggles, right? But if you're prepared to be in a better position, put yourself in that position, right? Nobody starts off at the top. Nobody, right? You get there because the people, they happily, okay, my dad gave me this. They don't know how to maintain it and they lose it, right? So I think part of it is, for that progression, is maintaining what you have. Sometimes you have to be content with what you have because that's all you got. You can't live in somebody else's fantasy. And I want to be Bill Gates. Can I be Bill Gates? In my head, I could be all who I want to be, but I can't make that happen. So I have to be content with what I have. And I think part of that has to be with you saying, what's that drive within you? You have the ambition, regardless what type of hustle you have, right? Like, people have a hustle in them. They just, some of them don't want to utilize it, right? And I think some of it's just small steps, but that's how you get big.
Awesome, awesome. Well, brother Luis, I just want to say, man, it's always a pleasure to connect. I know we're going to continue to connect. I admire your drive, your passion, your willingness to give this information over to people. It is, you are a role model to many in the community, I'm sure. Uh, uh, and so, Latasha, did you want to contribute? You want to say anything? Conversation here?
Sure. Well, Luis, I think you did an excellent job explaining your story, the process that you went through, and how you're eager to motivate and push other individuals forward. I tell you all the time, and I'm gonna say it again. Look, I want to be like you when I grow up. Like, you're doing such amazing things, not just within yourself, but for the community. And like, each one teach one. So if you can show an individual that you can come home and upgrade your life, upgrade your lifestyle, upgrade the way that you're thinking, then it can be beneficial for a lot of people. One of the things I would like to add, I don't know if you got a chance to pay attention to the screen, but one of the things we do when we first start to share our story and get out there and tell our story, we might not get as many people to support us in the beginning or come out and really listen to what we got to hear. They're like, oh, I know him, I know his story, but hearing it from this aspect is very different. So I want you to continue to stay encouraged, continue to speak your voice, let it be heard, let it be known, and let other people know that no matter how much time you have done and no matter what circumstances you have came from, that there's still times and points where you can still elevate, and there's people out here to support you, and there's resources out here available to support you through the process. So I just want to commend you on your first thing today, and thanks for inviting me. I love to hear your story over and over again, and like, I learned a lot more today, internally. And like you say, it's lonely at the top, but it's also lonely at the bottom. So either way, so it's like, what you gonna do with it? So thank you again. And thank you as well. I feel like you're a great support to him as well, Ryan. He always talks about you. And just, it was great to have you there to even pull out the things that he may have missed. Because a lot of times when we're talking about our experiences, we want to tell everything, but we only can limit it because of the time. So just allowing him to recap on some more important things that you felt should have been said or discussed. So I'm definitely glad I was here to hear it, and continue to invite me out, and I'll definitely share as much as I can.
Awesome. I appreciate you, Latasha, and good work you're doing over there at the Institute for Nonviolent Chicago, doing phenomenal work, helping and create change. I hear some phenomenal stuff of what you all are doing over there. And I'm just happy to be a fly on the wall, seeing all this fabulous work go on. And I just feel honored just to let me participate and support any way I can. So again, Luis, though, easiest person to teach. He already had it. He could run a course, teach the course himself. So
yes, one of the things I hate to interrupt, but my mom, one day I was talking with Luis, and I had him on speakerphone, and it was after work, and he was trying to figure out something, and my mom, she heard him talking, and when I got off the phone, she said he going somewhere in life. She didn't know anything about him. She didn't know his background. She didn't know his story. She was like, but you can tell that he's an individual who wants to learn. He's eager to learn. If he don't know, he wants you to help him understand. And I always bring that up to him just to remind him, learning it never ends, and that's how we grow. So continue to, so you can teach one, each one teach one.
Each one teach
Thank you,
one.
Tasha. No,
You're welcome.
I like that you've been supporting me for last years, and I like the story that I was that horse in the mud, and I'm trying to get to the winning circle, but you're betting on me, and I like people that bet while instead of while they still before the race starts, then at the end, right? And I love that because I think that what motivates me as well. So thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I think that's it. I mean, I just want to say I appreciate you, Luis. Excellent, excellent job. I want to say thank you, everybody, for coming out. Thank you, Latasha, for coming out. And with that, thank you all for joining us next town hall meeting. Each one teach one. See you next time. Peace.
Thank you, Ryan.
No problem, brother. Let me stop this recording here. Good job, man. Great job, brother. I think
Thank
that's
you.
all. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you Tina's gonna send me the clip. I'm gonna send you the whole thing, and I'm gonna put together like a 2-minute clip piece. And we're gonna put that piece on there for everybody else to see. And then you said a lot of good points, man. Ton of good nuggets. I was writing them all down as you were saying them. So you got a story to tell, brother. You definitely got a story to tell. I see a book coming after all this. I'm
Thank you.
serious. I'm serious, man. All right, brother.
Okay.
Keep in touch, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, sure do.